Game of Thrones creator George R. R. Martin had a meltdown over fans questioning whether or not he is going to finish The Winds of Winter. My Fandom Pulse co-owner, John Della Rose, wrote this up over at fandompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. And obviously, Martin has been periodically addressing the fact that he has not actually completed his Winds of Winter book, despite saying that fans would have the right to lock him up in some volcano if he had not finished it in like 2020 or something like that. It's now 2025. He's also been part of the narrative about toxic fandom, etc. He wrote this a couple of months ago. Saying toxicity is growing. I guess this was back in 2024, January 2024, so a little over a year ago. Saying toxicity is growing. It used to be fun talking about our favorite books and films and having spirited debates with fans who saw things different, but it is no longer enough to say I did not like this book or this film, and here's why. People would rather talk about the stuff they hate than the stuff they love and delight in dancing on the graves of anyone whose film has flopped. Don't really understand what kind of point he's making there, because he literally says that people would go on and talk about things that they didn't like, and then he says he's upset that people are talking about the things that they hate. I guess maybe there is a difference in degree there, but I would say that they're pretty similar. And I would wager when you listen to a lot of people that are indeed offering criticisms of a lot of the modern slop that Hollywood is producing in both television and film, and then also in a lot of what you see in modern novels, it's just absolute garbage. But when people do criticize that stuff, they do point to things that are better for the most part. At least the people that I pay attention to, they are pointing to things that are better and that you should be watching instead. And a lot of times it's things that were made in the past that were better than what's coming out now. Mainly because the stuff that's coming out now is full of agenda, full of woke agenda, whether that be some LGBTQ crap, whether it be feminism, whether it be some kind of like communist manifesto, etc. There's usually some kind of agenda to it. Typically, we also see a lot of anti-Christian narratives being pushed as well. All kinds of degeneracy being promulgated, right? Promulgated. So let's get to what he actually said recently, though. He was announcing a new Hercules animated production, and then he just goes off on his actual readers. So he posted this here, Howard Meets Hercules, just a couple of days ago, May 28th, and he's talking about how they're doing this animated feature that is an adaptation of Howard's novella, A Dozen Tough Jobs, and it's going to be just produced and distributed by Lionforge. And then he goes on this like massive rant. He says, I know, some of you will just be pissed off by this, as you are by everything I announce here that is not about Westeros or the Winds of Winter. You have given up on me or on the book. I will never finish Winds. If I do, I will never finish A Dream of Spring. If I do, it won't be any good. I ought to get some other writer to pinch hit for me. I'm going to die soon anyway because I am so old. I lost all interest in A Song of Ice and Fire decades ago. I don't give a crap about writing any longer. I just sit around and spend my money. I edit the Wild Cards books too, but you hate Wild Cards. You may hate everything else I've ever written, the Hugo Winners and Hugo Losers, A Song for Elia, and Dying of the Light, Sand Kings, and Beauty and the Beast, This Tower of Ashes, and The Stone City, Old Mars and Old Venus, and Rogues and Warriors and Dangerous Women, and all the other anthologies I edited with my friend Gardner Duzois. You don't care about any of those. I know you don't care about anything but Winds of Winter. You've told me so often enough. Thing is, I do care about them, and I care about Westeros and Winds as well. The Starks and Lannisters and Targaryens, Tyrion and Asha, Dany and Daenerys, the dragons and the dire wolves. I care about them all more than you can ever imagine. I loved A Dozen Tough Jobs the first time I read it ages ago. I loved Howard too. It saddens me that he did not live long enough to see the film. I hope we do him justice. How can we not? Hercules, Howard, Joe, Lionforge, I wish you all could share my excitement at the prospect of this movie. And then he like links to the Hollywood Reporter, I guess, breaking the story, and he disables the comments, right? I don't know if he does that for all of them, but he clearly has it right there on this one. So clearly, I mean, this is getting to him. I think it's eating away at him. That I think people are turning on him. People have had enough with this guy's excuses, and let's be real, that's what they are at this point. Like I said, he promised that he would allow people to lock him in a volcano in order for him to finish the book, and he hasn't finished the book, right? So people, I think, are fed up and sick of this guy's excuses, and clearly it's weighing on him, and he is now absolutely lashing out like an angry toddler who is unable to control his emotions. It's just a sad and kind of pathetic to see this. But he's the one that has the power to change this. He could actually dedicate the majority of his time to getting this book finished and getting it out there and getting it published. My guess is that he's never going to do that because his ending is the ending that we saw in the Game of Thrones TV show. If you recall, he actually admitted that was his ending. We saw multiple articles talking about that from both the Game of Thrones showrunners as well as from Martin, saying that was indeed his ending. He had given them notes, etc., and that was how it was going to end. However, after it was not received well, to say the least, he began distancing himself from that ending and trying to play coy that was not how his book actually ends, how his story ends. But we don't know how his story ends because he hasn't actually finished it, because I think that is how his story ends. It's how it ends. And it's an absolutely terrible, awful ending, and people don't like it, and it just shows that he's not as good of a writer as what he thought he was. He built himself up, I think, in his own mind, and he just wasn't able to pull it off. And if you can't pull off the ending, it doesn't matter how much good the other stuff was. You got to have an ending, right? Stories typically have an ending. The ending does play a major role in how people rate the book, rate the story, right? So, as I said, I think people are done with George R.R. Martin. The guy just comes out with excuse after excuse after excuse. He's taking on all kinds of other different jobs and saying like, it's not really taking up any of my time. Well, it is. I mean, because you only have a certain amount of time to do things. And if you're doing other things, then you're not doing Winds of Winter. And if you were really dedicated to Winds of Winter, you would get it done. And honestly, he should be dedicated to Winds of Winter. It's the thing that he's been promising fans for a long time, and he absolutely has not delivered on that promise. And I think it's eating away. I think this post is his own like conscious kind of being publicly broadcast because he's guilty over what he did and what he hasn't done, right? Because again, I think that he actually has written much of the story, and that is the ending, and he's trying to rework it, and he's kind of stuck with what he's got now. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. What do you make of George R.R. Martin here going off on this wild rant tangent here about why he hasn't finished Winds of Winter, and kind of responding to fans who are just kind of over his numerous excuses that seemingly add up every time he makes a post to his blog. Again, let me know what you make of this in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.
Why would you be afraid of the people? Why are you not afraid of God instead of man?